Andrew, welcome along to the Breeders' Cup Day 2 on the Zoom room here with Johnny Ward, Bill Esdaile and Scott Finley. You may have watched us give selections, which may or may not have won on Day 1 because I'm recording this before Day 1 and Day 2. But do remember to check out Starsports' website for all the specials on European winners and so on and so forth. We have the pipped at the post offer, a pony back if you're reading a neck or less for all the Breeders' Cup races. Scott Finley, I'm going to start off straight away here with Gamine. There's a kind of a moral and ethical kind of dilemma over here for anyone who backs a horse trained by this man. Gamine is obviously at the centre of this. She would be unbeaten, but for yada yada. What is the thought process over there ahead of, which is the first race as well, the filly and mare sprint? Do people in America, do they want their compatriot Gamine to win, or do they not?
Well, Gamine is the banker of the 2 days. Despite Bob Baffert, I mean, this horse has only lost once, and that was in the Kentucky Oaks when she was going 9 furlongs, the first time she'd ever been anything longer than a mile. Despite all the controversy about Baffert, the horse is shipped. It's won at Saratoga. I mean, the ballerina there, those Group 1s at Saratoga, they're absolutely rock solid, best form for fillies and mares in the U.S. Again, I can't see this horse being beaten. It's not a good betting proposition. We tend to play a lot of rolling bets in the U.S. where you're doing sort of, 4-timers and pick 4s, they call them, pick 5s, pick 6s. This would be a banker for that sort of a bet. If you want to have a Peyton or a Yankee back over in Britain or Ireland, just throw this one in because, it's not going to be a price, but you're going to turn a Peyton into you turn a Yankee into a Peyton if you play this horse. And
what sort of reception does she get if she comes in as the winner's enclosure?
Very good. I mean, at Saratoga, I was there to see her win. I mean, despite Baffert and all his troubles, and he actually had to go to court to get an injunction against Saratoga management. They had banned him from entering any horses at New York tracks. He got it overturned. She did get a good reception. There was nobody there booing. This is a fantastic horse. I mean, I think she'd be as good if you or I trained her. So, I mean, if anything, Baffert, she just kind of stands back and lets her run. She's amazing, an amazing filly.
Just very briefly, and this is on an aside, how worried are you about the future of American racing? You're from the Boston area, you live in the Boston area where we have Suffolk Downs, one of the racetracks that's gone in recent years. A lot of issues with drugs, a lot of issues with people just not going racing because they stay at home. How is the state of American play going forward?
That's a good question. The big days, the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont Stakes, Breeders' Cup, they'll always do well. They'll always be well attended. The boutique meetings like Del Mar in the summer, Saratoga, Keeneland in April and October, Oaklawn Park in the winter, and in Arkansas and Gulfstream Park in the winter, they will always do well. It's these fringe tracks that frankly shouldn't even be racing. The only reason they even open their doors is because they've been subsidized. Prize money has been subsidized by slot machine and casino revenues. Now that sports betting is legal in I think it's up to 17 U.S. states. In many of those states, the racing industry doesn't get a dime out of it. So the full crop's down. I mean, the fields are shorter. Racing will always survive in America. It'll always do well at the big venues and the big races. But these little fringe tracks, the Finger Lakes and the Mountaineer Parks and the Delta Downs, I can't, if they ever lose their slot revenue or don't get a cut of sports betting, they absolutely have no future.
Yeah, and that's the racing. Over to the turf sprint, Bill, a case of you, what a story this would be if you were to win for Ado McGuinness. I think the ground is going to be a problem for that horse. Emiratiana, a very, very fast horse, would probably appreciate dropping back to 5 furlongs, held on last time. Obviously, Golden Pal flopped at York, but won well glass slippers last year as winners. Strong Irish and British interest here.
Yeah, strong rating party, but I fancy a home win on the coupon here. I really fancy this Golden Pal. He's got the perfect gate for Wesley Ward. The one blot on the scorecard is obviously the bomb out, the unexplainable bomb out at York, where he was kind of 5 lengths behind Winter Power, and it was pretty unexplainable. But he's back on home soil. He's proved himself at Keeneland last time. I think he's just going to take plenty of catching. I mean, Emirati Anna and Glass Slippers and A Case for You. They're going to be chasing a very fast horse around a bend who's going to quicken up and go clear. And I think Golden Pal at around 5-2 is a really strong bet.
I completely can see what you're saying there. I think you can make strong cases against the British and Irish horses, either over trip ground or just not good enough. They're also taking on American Sprinter on home territory. Scott, are you going to chime in and give us a hat trick here for the Wesley Ward horse?
Yeah, I like a different Wesley Ward horse, though. I mean, again, the guy is an amazing genius when it comes to sprinters and 2-year-olds. And here's the first person to ever ship over and race at Royal Ascot and be successful. I don't know what it is. I mean, he's a former jockey, but he's brilliant. And Kamari, I mean, both his horses are really good. I think Kamari's form. I mean, I go back to Ascot. The horse ran second in the Commonwealth Cup, and his other one bombed out at York. Now, okay, why did it bomb out at York? Who knows? Anything's possible. But, his filly Campanelle bombed out in the race at Deauville and then came back and kept winning. So Kamari's my horse in this one. Joe Rosario is an exceptionally good early speed rider. He knows how to place horses near the pace, but save a little bit for the straight. I'm not really worried about draw 9 because I don't see this horse going crazy trying to get position early. I think it'll lay 4th or 5th, sort of 2 out, get a little slip inside around the bend and just blow them away in the straight.
Wow, I wasn't really expecting that, I have to say. So we have, what do you make of that, Bill? So does that really put you off?
No, I totally get it. I think one thing we haven't really mentioned is how some of these races might be quite rough, just because of the track position or whatever. And the attraction to me of Golden Pal is he's going to be out and gone. And it's whether the engine cuts out in the straight or not, because he's going to turn in with that lead. And it's just whether the closers come and grab him or not. And a lot of these closers, and I totally get what Scott's saying about Kamari and those kind of ones, they need to stay out of trouble because this race is 5 furlongs. It's not the 5.5 furlongs, it's 5. And time runs out, the egg timer goes. And if you get held up at any point trying to close, you've got a real problem. And there will be traffic problems. And I just like the fact that from gate 3, I think Golden Pal will be away and clear of the 2 European raiders coming to the first turn. And I think that puts him in great track presence. But I totally get Kamari. Maybe it's a Wesley Ward exacta. Maybe that's the way to play it.
Yeah, and to be fair to Mare, it's a Saturday night. You're guaranteed entertainment here. Be over a 1.5 miles for a sprint because there's so much going on, so much jockey craft. Irish horses, British horses, Japanese horses, American horses, local jockeys against the likes of Colin Keane and so on. They're all battling for early position, and if they don't get early position, they then have to ride a race. So tactics are going to be so important. Now the dirt mile, life is good. I mean, the commentator, this is absolutely made for him, Scott. Life is good if this thing's wins. It's going to go off some like 4 to 7. I think the show 10 different trainers have won the last 10 renewals of this race.
Yeah, the dirt miles. It's been my bet noir of the Breeders' Cup. I tell you, I mean, every year I say, I really like this one, and I get stuffed. I mean,
so what happens this year?
I don't know. It's just, I think it's a hard race. I mean, look, Baffert's horse 8 Rings is in there with a big shot. It's he's won over he's run at Del Mar. He's won over the track. Brad Cox seems to have a lock on things. Silver State's a good horse. Again, you got this Japanese horse, but I mean, I given my history with the dirt mile, which is miserable, I will opt for 8 Rings, and I would not be surprised if anything happens. I mean, Ginobili's also a good California-based horse. I mean, the 4-year-olds have a much better record. You don't see a lot of 5, 6, 7-year-olds winning these kind of races. I don't really have much of a feel for the 3-year-olds. Life is good. His last race was very, very impressive in the Kelso. He'd been off a long time. He's come back. Todd Pletcher's a phenomenal trainer. After Joel Rosario, Aratis Jr., and his brother are the 2 other best jockeys in the U.S. But at a price, I'll go with 8 Rings because he's the local horse. Any
thoughts, Bill?
The one thing I do agree about Scott is that this is a hard race to get right traditionally. I tend to avoid the dirt mile and the dirt juvenile. I just find them both, when you get sucked into the good things, it can be expensive. And the one thing I agree, I think Life is Good looks the obvious one, but he wouldn't be one I would be queuing up to take odds on about as a 3-year-old against Olders in a race like this, where he's meeting really good horses. I think that's the key. This is the toughest test of his life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He's a young horse, and he might be the real thing, but he was 1 to 20 when he won last time. He was entitled to win by as far as he did because he was beating horses that aren't.
And it was a 4-horse field, and it originally drew 6, and 2 of the better horses scratched out. So I mean, again, the form, he ran a fast time. He got a good speed figure, but he didn't beat anything.
I mean, the Jackie's Warrior form is good. The Jackie's Warrior form is good, and that puts him deserved favourite. But do you want to take odds on in this race? History says no. I bow to Scott's knowledge in a race like this and play small stakes.
Okay, so this brings us on to Love. Now, Love for me, actually straight to you, Bill. Before I say what Aidan O'Brien said, before we look at the form, before we question whether she hasn't trained on, what have you made of her this year?
Well, the first thing I think we've got to say about this race is the trip, because this ain't the 1 mile 1/8 anymore. It's 1 mile 3/8.
And she is made for this. She's made for this.
That extension of trip to 1 mile and 3/8 that this race now is made for Love. It's probably a negative for Audaria. She's probably at her best over the 1 mile 1, 1 mile 2 distance. I really like Love in this. I think she comes here a fresh horse, decent ground. Aidan seems to be quite sweet on her chances. He's got a point to prove. Things haven't necessarily gone according to plan this season, and I think he'd love to win this race with Love. And all those critics and cynics that have said she beat nothing last year, this is his chance to prove that she's the top class horse, and this is why they've gone for this race rather than throwing her in the turf or whatever they could have thrown her in. And she looks this one to me. She's going to be really hard to beat. I don't know enough about Warlike Goddess to know how big a threat she is to Love, but she'll have to be really good to outstay her. Probably the 1 mile 3 is her ideal trip. Love's Only You for the Japanese Raider. Got great pieces of form, but also knows how to get beat. And I think Love's the one here. Audaria could be our biggest challenger. It could be a replay of the Prince of Wales, and I expect Love to come out on top. And I think 4 to 1's a great price.
Yeah, 7 to 2 currently with Star Sports. You might get 4 to 1. But I think what's fascinating here is that just listening to Aidan O'Brien, he's exonerating her defeats this season since the season comeback because the pace wasn't very fast. She gave a load of weight away. The curves, a nice run. She liked this kind of surface racing here for the first time. She'll be very happy to be forward, Scott, which I take as code word for Ryan Moore is going to try to dictate here. And this is one of the things in running. If this horse is, if her SP is 7 to 2 after 3 furlongs of this race, she could be 6 to 4 if he gets a soft lead.
Yeah, well, she tends to race up with a pace anyway. And look at the history in this particular race. I mean, it's been won by Europeans just about every year. Aidan O'Brien's farmed this race. You know, the U.S. horses, there's a couple of good ones, but even the good ones have all European form. And if you go back to Love's races, yeah, I mean, she's got to be my pick in here. I haven't really seen the UK prices.
How good is the home challenge?
The home challenge is good. I mean, you know, again, Chad Brown, he's a Mr. Turf racing in America. He's got a couple in here that could be anything. But, you know, you got a lot of other good Europeans and again, the Japanese horses, I don't know. I mean, I was so shocked that one Japanese horse won the the Prix-Foy, the Prix Niel on Arc Trials Day. I mean, it ran pretty badly in the Arc itself, but they look what the Japanese have done in Dubai and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I make Warlike Goddess the best of the home team, but don't underrate My Sister Net. She'll be a big price, and just again, Chad Brown's unbelievable, and you know she's got that French form. I mean, that French bloodlines like Satsas and everything else comes from the same line. But yeah, Audaria, don't know. I mean, you know, she didn't run well at Goodwood in the Nassau, and I mean that's more of a U.S. style course over longer distances, but yeah, I think this is Aidan's race to take, and
Yeah.
And unless something's just amiss with that filly, I mean, I think she'll be hard to beat.
No better man than Ben Keith to come up with a special forecast for Love to beat Love's Only You, even a
That's good. I love it.
reverse forecast. Ben, where are you? And don't rule out Canella either, who's stepping up in trip. And it's just very interesting Gerline's targeting this race. He definitely doesn't target races at all unless he thinks horses have a good chance of winning. Now, in this case, he might be looking for black type or whatever, but she's quite unexposed over the 1 and 3. And it's interesting. Colin Keane's going to ride a waiting race and see what happens. It's over to you for the 9:38 hour time. This is simply Jackie's Warrior or not, is it, Scott?
Yes. Hang on. I got to flip the old pages of the form here. Sorry, I haven't memorized them all yet. Just at the highest level, when the Breeders' Cup is run at a California venue, the West Coast-based horses just tend to dominate.
Yeah, so in general, is there a worry about East Coast horses coming over, like the horses that Chad Brown would train or Petra, these guys? Is that any concern? Is something that,
well, like not so much in the grass races, because Chad Brown and Todd Pletcher and even to some degree Mark Casse have shipped to the West Coast for all the major stakes at Santa Anita and at Del Mar and so forth over the years. I mean, they just do it. I mean, if they have a horse like a 3-year-old filly and there's no good 3-year-old races, or they want firm ground and it's been raining in New York, they're not afraid to ship across the country for big races. But in terms of, early speed on the dirt is the name of the game in California horse racing. So, and Jackie's Warrior is a brilliant horse. It comes from modest beginnings and is trained by, Steve Asmussen is great. His race at Saratoga, I mean, the Jerkins, again, amazing race. But, the Californians, I have to give them an advantage. I mean, that's Peter Miller. I mean, he won 2 of the sprint races at the last time the Breeders' Cup was run in California. And this CZ Rocket, again, will be a price, but, he's had 3 starts over Del Mar. He's had a win, a second, and a third. It's again, after the dirt mile, a dirt sprint is my bugaboo race. So I'll give you an outsider that also has a bit of a checkered past, but Firenze Fire is a really, really, really good racehorse. And again, I don't know how much you follow all the horrible shenanigans we've had in the past in U.S. racing, but his trainer, Jason Service, was arrested, and, he's going to be done up to go to prison for drugging horses. And Firenze Fire used to be like, how many lengths is he going to win by? And then, he's taken away from Jason Service, given to Kelly Breen, who's a good, somewhat underrated trainer. And the horse has bounced back. He's more of a 7 furlong horse, though, than a 6 furlong horse. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if he popped up and won. But, again, this is a race I tend to stay away from it. If you got to have a bet in every race, fair enough. I'd go for a price each way. And I go with one of the California-based horses. And that's either Dr. Survival, and who won a very good trial race for this one, and he's won over the Del Mar Surface. He's undefeated over Del Mar, or Peter Miller's horse. But the outside draw is actually slight advantage on a dirt sprint at Del Mar, especially in a 9-horse field.
There we go. That's something they hadn't learned either. Now the Breeders' Cup Mile, Bill, straight over to you. So many fascinating British and Irish angles. This Space Blues who obviously beat Pearls Galore so easily with that turn-of-footed Longchamp. Pearls Galore, first runner for Paddy Toomey here. We have Mother Earth, who's not had much luck this season. Comes here very, very hardy. She's basically, I think she's a filly that's going to thrive off a strong pace if she gets it. Over to you.
Yeah, she'll get a strong pace, all right, in this. There's too many good horses in this for them to hang around. It's made for Space Blues. This is the last run of his career before he goes to stud. And if he's ever going to get a mile, it's going to be around here. He'll be fine on the ground. He's drawn a great gate.
How is there any concern about him getting a mile, by the way?
I just think it's just because he hasn't run over a mile. I presume that's the only.
I do bad.
Yeah, I mean,
he's one that's heavy over 7.
Yeah, he's bred to get it. He's bred to get it. They just haven't tried him on it, but he's so strong late on his races that he's almost crying out for it. And he'll travel really well. He'll be market leader, and he'll take the world of beating. I actually think his stablemate will go well at a big price. Master of the Seas ran well early season. The Ascot wouldn't have suited him the last day on softish ground. Fast ground will help him. He's drawn a good barrier. I could easily see him hitting the frame, but I'd be surprised if Space Blues isn't the winner. And I agree with you on Mother Earth. I genuinely believe this is a race where the Europeans could have the first 3 home. I really do. Scott can kind of play up the strengths.
It's hard to go past the Godolphin horse. I mean, the way he won the Prix de Forêt, I was like, wow. And, hey, 7 furlongs or 1,400 meters at Longchamp is around the bend. And he's been around a bend. He hasn't been around 2 bends, but also, of course, you got that much longer straight at Longchamp. But I mean, this horse was cruising, 2 out, and just one as the rider pleased. I can't.
Sorry, Scott. Just to say one thing about that. I was at Goodwood when he reappeared in July, and the market told you he wasn't ready. This, I think, has always been the plan. I think they've had an idea about bringing him back, peaking at York, getting him to Longshore, and then ending the career in the Breeders' Cup. So I think it's been a long plan. I don't think it's the case of like a European afterthought like some of these other ones. I think this has always been the plan for him.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Very good point. And there was a little bit of concern going into the 4A on our day, and but yeah, he was to me one of the most impressive winners of that meeting. On the local horses, I have to give a shout out. I own about one hair on the tail of Got Stormy.
Oh wow!
I have shares in Got Stormy, and this horse is a sweetheart. I've made a lot of money betting this horse over the years. She always pops up at big odds. I mean, her win in the 4-star David Saratoga, unfortunately, I didn't bet her to win. So you got to throw her in there for the exotics. She pops up when you least expect it. She's a proven performer against the boys going a mile on the grass. And so I got to give her a shout. Castle Creed's good, but again, I stick to the whole look of California. You've got this one of Peter Miller's again. I'm trying to find it right. Mo Forza, solid form over Del Mar's grass course. Again, wouldn't be surprised if he hit the board, but yeah, I can't see past Godolphin in this one.
I was so excited to once own a horse who won during the Galway races. That wasn't my ambition. Now, the horse actually won at Wolverhampton during the Galway races. But I'm here with Scott, who was the leg of a runner, effectively, the Breeders' Cup, and Bill Esdaile, who regularly has runners in Royal Ascot. I mean, I'm in the company of greatness here. Straight over to the Distaff. A very, very, very hot price favorite here, the Truska. By all accounts, a bit of a head the ball of a horse. She has to get on to the likes her own way. It's going to probably, again, going to go off something like even money over there. Scott, what do you make of her?
Yeah, good. Again, one of these scratch your head horses. I mean, I really don't know anything about the trainer. He's a minor. I think he's from Argentina or Brazil or something, and he trains at Florida Gulfstream Park. He's got this. She's a really, really, really good horse. Malathat, Shadwell's horse. Todd Pletcher. That's if you had to go one against Latrushka, I would go with Malathat. Proven to be able to ship all around, win races. I mean, she's only been beaten once in her life. Big deal. She gets a 3-pound weight allowance as a 3-year-old. But no, it's Latrusha's going to be very hard to beat. But at the prices, and even Brad Cox's horse, She Dares the Devil, could pop up there. But I would go for Malathat at the prices.
Bill, I have to say I'm greatly looking forward to the turf. And I'm only speculating here, but I wouldn't be amazed if one of the reserves actually crept in. Aidan O'Brien has a load of runners declared. Not all got in, obviously. Bolshoi Valley, who's had his American forays already this season, and Mogul among the reserves.
Yeah, well, but Bolshoi Valley's in. He's got in just as we're recording.
There we go.
Good.
There we go. The horse that I so much hopes for this season, thought he might win the Derby, looked like he would win the Derby until he got injured or whatever. He's had a bit of a checkered season. Says he's now taking on Tarnawa. And Bill, we could talk about this all day in terms of tactics. How is it going to work out for Colin Keane?
Yeah, well, the big American Hope domestic spending is out, so that's why Bolshoi Valley is now in, and that's on paper makes Tanawa's task a bit easier on paper, because one of the big local hopes is not going to be taking Tanawa on. She's going to be short. I think she'll win Tanawa. I think she's very good. I think she's been lightly campaigned. I think the drawing gate 13 makes the mind up tactically what they've got to do. They've got to ride her for luck, hold her up. They tend not to go really quick in this race. It's the one Breeders' Cup race for me, the turf, where they tend to dawdle a bit. And then
it's so fascinating at Del Mar as well. And like, you come into this bend, you then take a sharp left turn and you have to get into position. Yeah,
the negative for kind of Tanawa fans is the fact that she's going to be coming from behind. And I think the straight, Scott will tell us, I think it's 250 meters or something, the straight as they turn in. It's not a lot of time to make up ground if Colin Keane decides to give her too much to do. And fun enough, I felt that domestic spending might be one of our big dangers if she got first run, or he got first run on Tanawa. He's not there now. I think Tanawa's got an easier task. I think she will win. I think her danger might just be the 3-year-old filly of Roger Varian's, Tiona.
Also drawn high.
If they're drawn high. Now, she does want a strong pace. If they dawdle, that won't play her, because she'll be keen as anything. But if they tend to go a bit quicker and she can get a bit of cover and a bit of a lead on fast ground, I think we haven't seen the best of Tiona yet. So I would play Tanawa to win and Tiona for the place.
Over to you, Scott.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, Tanawa's trip in the arc was not the greatest, and horses coming out of the arc that have not won the arc have a very strong sort of statistical historical record in the Breeders' Cup turf. From the home team, well, again, there's sort of that semi-home team. Again, I just have been so impressed with Charlie Appleby and what he's done. Yabir comes to Belmont and wins, albeit, you know, not the strongest race. And then Walton Street won at Woodbine. You gotta use the Appleby horses as well. But yeah, this is a good race. This is gonna be a really good race. I think a lot of racing luck might play a part in it. Yes, the draw and how the pace shapes up. I mean, you wonder again, is Broome in there to go out fast early and try and set it up for the late runners? You know, it's hard to say what Aiden's plans are. But yeah, I mean, with Chad Brown's horse out, I mean, it changes the race completely from the standpoint of the U.S. I mean, this could easily be, if you count the Appleby Godolphin horses as sort of Europeans, this is first 5 home gotta be from abroad. So
Bolshoi Ballyville is so interesting. You know, he's proven that he can take these trips no problem. He obviously started off, he had his injury in the Derby, he had to come back. He was off from what makes his trip over to the States. Couple of defeats, obviously Saratoga and Belmont. But it's interesting that he ships him over. Perhaps I don't know the thinking in Aiden's kind of globetrotting a lot this year. He's had more success almost globally than on home turf. But what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's just whether he's quite good enough over this trip. You know, whether if it was a mile and a quarter, I'd probably fancy him more. Whether he truly gets a strong run, mile and a half, I'm not so sure. Don't forget, Aiden got Order Australia in as a first reserve last year, didn't he? And he creates a big surprise. So Bolshoi Bally could be one to play at the big prices in Quinella, but just Tarnower, if she's going to be very hard to beat. If she's within touching distance turning in, I think she'll mow them down. I think she's really classy, and I think she'll win.
Yeah,
I mean, 3 more jumps, she would have won the arc. So
yeah. Don't forget our PIPPED at the post offer before we get to the last race. If you're beating a neck or less in any of the Breeders' Cup races up to a pony, we will give you your money back. Onto the Classic. This is a race in which...
Let me just say that's a perfect special for Tanawa, because if she doesn't win, she's probably going to be beaten the neck. So there you go. Just like in Longchamp. Take advantage of that special.
Yeah, take advantage of the special in every race anyway. It's great in the gambling side. Psychology. If you're beaten narrowly, it's almost as hard to take as anything. And of course, when you get your money back, you can obviously invest in the next race, in which case you either bet on Nick's Go or you bet on something else. Is there any trip quandary with Nick's Go? Does Nick's Go just win? Scott, what's your take on this? Taking on Essential Quality horse?
Again, there's another. Nick's Go was the horse that I hated last year in the dirt mile. And of course, Brad Cox wins, 4 races over the 2 days of Keeneland. I don't think it's going to be a problem for Nick's Go to get the trip, but it's all about how the race shapes up. I mean, he's confirmed front runner. He goes to the lead, and it's what's the pace going to be like? Is somebody going to press him early? Essential Quality was my top pick in the Kentucky Derby. I backed him in the Belmont. He won. You know, I liked him in the Travers. So you know, I think you have a special on Brad Cox, that might be a good way to play this race. But yeah, again, Nick's Go is one of those horses that just I can never get him right.
Does he have to get a soft lead, or does it matter?
Pardon?
Does he have to get a soft up front, or does it matter?
No, he doesn't have to get a soft. He has incredible speed. It's just, you know, he's never gone longer than 9 furlongs. And, you know, 10 furlongs around Del Mar, yeah, the extra furlong makes a big difference, sure. But he doesn't have a stayer's pedigree. He's just one on raw speed and raw ability. It's just like, come and catch me. And if you can, God bless you. But yeah, I mean, Essential Quality, Hot Rod Charlie. I think this is a year the 3-year-olds might actually really show up and have a really good shot. Hot Rod Charlie was, he did really well in the U.S. Classics. He had a tough beat in the Kentucky Derby. Same in the Belmont. Essential Quality beat him in the Belmont. Essential Quality is more of a grinder. Getting the 10 furlongs at Del Mar, if the pace is not too hot, he's going to have a hard time getting up. Whereas Hot Rod Charlie has proven he can also stay close to the pace and still finish well. I mean, his race at the Pennsylvania Derby, again, he didn't beat a lot, but that was an incredibly impressive performance in terms of pace figures and speed figures and so on. So
part of the fun bit as well, sorry, is to kind of try to come up with your own concept of how this race is going to be run. And if you can speculate that there is going to be pace pressure, you can back an outsider.
Yeah, there has to. I mean, Nick's Go has to go forward. It's the only way that they can ride him.
It's the only way he runs.
But I still have visions of him in the Saudi Cup when he was pressed. He checked out. And the times he's been beaten, when horses get to him, he tends to check out. And the dilemma for Brad Cox is that he's got the horse that can get to him, probably in essential quality. And it's at what point essential quality mounts a challenge on Nick's Go. Because what he doesn't want to do is have Nick's Go tackled by essential quality and then Hot Rod Charlie come over the pair.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
that's the worry. So tactically, it's a great race. I would be very keen on essential quality because I think he's tough and he's a grinder. And I just don't like horses that turn in, however short the straight is, running on fresh air. And I think Nick's Go will be running on fresh air. He might be 5 lengths clear, in which case it might hold on. But if he's not 5 lengths clear, he's got a big problem because if a horse gets to his quarters, I think they'll go past him. And that's my worry with Nick's Go. At the prices, I play essential quality, but it's a good race it's a great race to watch.
I think
also Medina Spirit is.
Go ahead, Scott.
Medina Spirit has no choice but to go after Nick's Go. I mean, again, another confirmed front runner. That's how he won the Kentucky Derby. So, I mean, I could see the two of them really hooking up. I mean, they're only drawn, 2 stalls apart, but and even considering, again, it's not a big field. You got a long run to the first bend, but Medina Spirit's second from the outside. Velasquez has got to move him up and put him in position, and Nick's Go will be inside him, and they go into the first bend. I can see the two of them, right there across the track. And then who gets positioned behind Essential Quality, Hot Rod Charlie? It's a fascinating race. This is really a jockey's race more than anything else. And
which I love to hear. Sorry, Scott. You can edit that out, lads. Which I love to hear, Scott. And if you are particularly patriotic, you can effectively put doubles on European horses winning individual race. There's trebles 4 times if you're not that at all and you're a fan of Uncle Sam. You can do the exact opposite, and you can basically bet patriotism race to race on the specials on the site. And remember, if you're pipped by a neck or less, you will get your money back in the Breeders' Cup race. Bill, let's start with your nap. I have a feeling I know what it will be.
You're going to think Space Blues. I think Space Blues is a good thing in the mile.
Good thing. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, I think he is a good thing, and I funny enough, I also think that that Golden Pal is a good thing in the sprint too. I think there's a good double there.
Okay, let's go over to Scott.
Well, I could say Gamine, but that's cheating, so I'm not going to say that one. Oh, God, should a nap be absolutely stone cold, can't lose, or you want a really good value bet? Oh, again, Space Blues, but I can't do that. Okay, so I'm going to go out on a limb here, okay? I'm going to go for Hot Rod Charlie in the Classic because he's going to be at least 8, 10, 12 to 1. And I think he's going to run a big race. And that'll be my long shot nap for the day.
That's absolutely beautiful because mine is love. That means we have a treble in 3 completely different races. I'm just speculating. I think she's going to get a soft lead. I think she's been trained for an autumnal campaign. And I got the vibes from Aidan O'Brien that she's in great nick. Scott, just to reiterate, we spoke about this on the Zoom day on day 1. How many successive Breeders' Cup did you attend to up until recently?
I was very proud to say that I went to every single Breeders' Cup, started in 1984 at Hollywood Park. I was living and working in the UK at the time and helped get the Racing Post set up with their early days of publishing with their technology and so on. But I said, this is going to be big. So every year from 1984, the first Breeders' Cup I missed was in 2015. And I missed it for a very sad reason, but I was working for the New York Racing Association then, and the CEO said he was the only one that could go to the Breeders' Cup, and I had to stay home and mind the store back at Belmont Park. So it was like, you can't do this to me. So from 1984 through 2014, I was at every single one of them. And then I missed 2015. I was at 2016. I missed 2017. I was at Churchill Downs for 2018. which one was at Keeneland? I was at that one as well. So I lose track of the different venues, but I've only missed 3 Breeders' Cup meetings in the entire history of it. And the first one was that sort of special reason. And it's a sad way to break the streak. But anyway.
It's been absolutely brilliant having you on. Bill, where are you going to watch it?
I'll be watching it from home.
Having a beer or no?
It depends on whether Space Blues wins.
You cannot let winning or losing dictate whether you have a beer or not.
Yes.
Just have a beer.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks a million for coming on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Really nice to work with you guys, and all the best for the weekend. And I'll be watching on NBC Sports here in America. So Beautiful. There you go.
And you can watch obviously over here on ITV, which is showing the meet for the first time. And it's Johnny Ward, Scott, and Bill. That was the Star Sports Zoom Room. Do check out the website and be lucky this weekend.